Tankard. I am Jim, aka Argent Wind, and I'm your host here for DM&D Chat here on the Temple Tankard YouTube channels and our Discord servers. Links in the description below if you want to jump in and join in some games here. We have some holiday one-shots happening soon, and some other games hopefully starting up, some campaigns and everything else. So hopefully jump into our servers, join in, and join in the fun. If you want to run games, we got lots of players looking for games. So, anyway, we are continuing our Class Act series here. And while Nans is around, she's feeling a little under the weather, so I'll be flying solo today with my little friend below me there. Hi there, Doc. Um, uh, we are talking. Our Class Act series is a kind of a deep dive into the various classes of D&D, how they can be used, both as players and as villains, and some pop culture aspects of it there, and just some more delving into the aspects of the classes themselves. And this week we're talking about sorcerers. And we'll get into why the person there, why my friend down below me here, I'm going to call a sorcerer and not a wizard. There's a big debate around that on the internet there. So I'll get into why that is here in a bit. But sorcerers. I will say that I have played a sorcerer up to 20th level. He was actually 17 levels of sorcerer, 2 levels of wizard, 1 level of bard. Um, but that's just for flavor reasons and fun. But I have played a high level sorcerer. I've also played a couple low level sorcerers. Um, of various kinds. And the thing about a sorcerer in D&D, and what I love about them, is they're all about, as they're described as, a mage filled with innate magic. Their magic comes from within, from either their bloodline or a connection to something, or something about connection to the forces of the universe or specific things, maybe even a little bit of chaos. But the fact is that sorcerers are more about a connection to magic on a fundamental level, based on either who they are or what's inside of them. Very different from other spellcasters. As you look at compared to wizards, who are literally learning magic from a book and casting things in a way that's very much tried and true and experimented on. The wizard is the intelligence-based caster, while the warlock is forming pacts like the connections with paranormal, otherworldly entities that can grant them power directly. This in contrast with clerics who are sort of worshiping domains and forces of nature and or deities and divine aspects of things. Um, Whereas sorcerers, again, they're something inside of them that allows them to forge a connection there and use magic in a way that's distinct from other people, from other spellcasting classes. As we've seen, sorcerers have more limited numbers of spells that they can learn, but they're often very much focused and specialized around the element of magic that they connect with. Um, their connection can take place of bloodlines, like the draconic bloodline, having dragons as an ancestor. It can be a connection to storms and lightning and wind and everything else from various things here. We'll talk about some famous storm sorcerers and ways of making them a little more interesting. Um, Connections to shadows and darkness, even a divine soul sorcerer, whether it's some sort of divine bloodline, maybe an ancestor who was either a powerful cleric of divine caster of some kind, or even potentially an angelic ancestor that's passed on that connection to divine magics. Um, my second highest sorcerer I played here was a divine soul sorcerer, and I'll kind of talk about him a little bit later on and some fun ways I got to use him. But the fact is, sorcerers they fill the role of typically fill the role of range damage magic caster. They're not going to have a wide breadth of spells typically. They kind of have to focus because they don't get very many spells that they know. Um, so the idea of a sorcerer kind of has to focus and specialize in something in order to capitalize on the benefits they get from being the sorcerer type that they are. Um, so yeah, you're going to see sorcerers kind of filling a smaller specific niche of some kind here. My sorcerer was a draconic bloodline sorcerer who had connection to blue dragon ancestry, so very much around lightning. What made him fun was the fact that he was also a silver dragonborn. So cold and lightning affinities mixed between his race, his species, and his class So it made for some very fun, kind of the silvery blue aspect that allowed him to throw lightning and ice magic around in ways that was very, very cool. Good old Strelv. Um, but other sorcerers, like I mentioned there, the one I did mention briefly is that kind of the iconic sorcerer people think about is the wild magic sorcerer. And as a player, wild magic sorcery in your head, in theory, is a very, very cool way to go. Unfortunately, wild magic sorcerers can also be a major liability because their primary function, casting arcane spells, has a potential to go horribly, horribly wrong and mess up you and everybody else around you. They can also be sorcerers can also be a glass cannon in a way here, but there's some fun ways around that. But the idea of that chaos magic, that wild magic and everything else, that I have seen it happen where a low-level sorcerer rolls on out there, goes to cast his magic missile spell and rolls wild magic surge and accidentally casts a fireball at his feet and takes himself out and have the party around him. What? Like you've completely messed up an encounter that should have been fairly trivial, and suddenly half the party's either dead or dying. Not good. So there are ways with Wild Magic Sorcerer to mitigate some of that, but the chaos, yes, the sorcerers, the chaos makers, sorcerers, chaos magic makers and sauce. Now. Um, uh, yes, sorcerers are having the wild magic sorcerers can be a very crazy, chaotic, and I will say yes, fun, but there's potential risk there that may not outweigh the fun chaos there. I know Nans has run a game where a chaos magic sorcerer has had a few mishaps that cause problems for the party. Um, absolutely. Uh, and I've seen it happen myself in games here. I've never actually run a chaotic sorcerer. I played one or run one in a game. But I've heard enough horror stories to know I don't want to do it. The closest I've seen is like someone using a rod of wonder, or a wand of wonder. Yeah, Millsap. Hey, hopefully he does. I mean, this is right up his alley. I'd like to get his take on there because I know he was a very proponent and loved that character. I'd like to know like some of the things that drew him to that and some positives and negatives and some success and failure stories because again it is chaos, so that there is that aspect there. um, so anyway, sorcerers are charisma casters. They use their personality, their confidence, and to instill that into their magic. Knowing who you are is a big part of your confidence, and so connecting to what's inside of you and knowing how to use it properly is kind of how iconically they specify charisma base. Sorcerers as party members can be a solid function there, a solid role. You know what to expect from your sorcerer typically, other than those chaos sorcerers. And with them, you can just expect chaos. But the idea of that sorcery, they're going to fill a niche of some kind. They're going to fill a specific role, and it's easy to kind of build around that. I felt that Strelv really kind of filled a niche, and everyone else kind of had their roles be able to fill around him, where everyone knew what to expect from Strel for the most part. There was going to be a lightning bolt or freeze somebody, or like I wasn't gonna suddenly go off script and go crazy with things typically because I built him specifically to do what he did. Um, One of the things I will say is that sorcerers, because they are so focused on their magic, they are oftentimes very reliant on their magic items. Getting items that allow them to expand their spell capabilities, getting items that allow them uh, um, to have access to more magic, using feats to get access to more magic. Um, Good sorcerers are bards that destroy loved loved one things on purpose. I mean, you're not wrong totally. Uh, but the idea that sorcerers are going to need a lot of need some help from magic items. Using wands. I mean, the ultimate thing for a sorcerer, as Stroll ended up having there, was a staff of wizardry, the staff of the Magi. lots of expansion of their spell capabilities, give me a lot more options for things they wouldn't normally have access to, or may not be comfortable taking because it takes away from their focus. So again, those kind of things really help. Um, but what sets sorcerers apart even more from other casters is meta magic. Meta magic allows them to do things with spells that nobody else can do. The quick casting, the twin spells, the subtle spells. These are all things that really go here. I mentioned those because those are my favorite. Um, I mean, obviously, quick cast, being able to cast a spell as a bonus action. I can, okay, excellent. Millsap is here. Awesome sorcerers. Millsap, I want to hear your, if you can do it for me here, your favorite success with your chaos magic sorcerer and your favorite, like, disaster. If you could do do your homework assignment while we're talking here, because I want to hear some of those fun stories. I've heard them, but I want to see if we can share them because yeah, that was just great. Um, but anyway, sorry. Back to metamagics. Being able to cast a spell as a as a bonus action, and then turning around and casting a bonus action spell in addition, really, really powerful. Being able to use your action for something. I mentioned my Divine Soul Sorcerer. I had a party member. We had our tank. I think it was a paladin, who went down in a massive like damage thing, um, and I went over to him and my little Divine Soul Sorcerer, I use my action to dump a healing potion into him and then quick cast a heal spell on him to bring him back to almost full health in one round. He was dying, and I boom back up to full health. I was fourth level at the time. I was actually able to bring our paladin from nothing to almost full health in one round. Really, really helpful in that aspect there. So quick casting, being able to quick cast and do something else as an action, great way to go there. Or being able to cast. It still doesn't let you cast two full like spells. So I can't cast a fireball and then quick cast another fireball. Um, just for balance reasons, I guess. I mean, why not? But yeah. Um, uh, Expands a lot of tactical options you have available to you. So fireball as a feat again, worst. Yes. Never got good outcomes. That is not a ringing endorsement for the class. As I was saying, it's such a terrible. It's. I mean, there are things out there that can be fun or crazy or weird, but there's not much on the list there that is helpful. But yeah, fireball at your feet. I've heard that a couple of times now, of just like that disaster. I think we had one where they use a route of wonder that dumped a fireball at someone's feet, and it's kind of the same thing. So similar aspects, similar potential liability. Um, so yeah, so yeah, Meta Magic's there. Quick cast is an amazing one. I love the twin spell because being able to cast two targets of a spell. My favorite thing with Strel, for a while there, I was doing this, being able to twin cast Dragon Breath on me and my familiar or a party member. Um, and two different party members. So suddenly I'm breathing cold as a silver dragonborn, and then two other people are breathing cold. We used it to put out fires in a town once. So we're running around breathing cold on fires to put them out. Um, and being able to do that, be able to do three of those at once, kind of helpful. So me with my racial ability, and then two other people with the spell, definitely adds for a lot of capability to spread some damage around. Yes, I I know you were there. You were the one running the game. So um, you were there for both of these stories here, both Millsap's and mine. Um, then to go from so twin spells, obviously being able to hold person on two targets at one time, great way to go. I've seen a classic one of using Witch Bolt, casting two Witch Bolts and maintaining two Witch Bolts at the same time there. Great way to go too. So twin spells again, you can just kind of cast two concentration spells at once and maintain them both. Um, but then what ended up being one of my favorite meta magics to use, for a very specific reason, was Subtle Spell. Because Subtle Spell allows you to cast a spell without verbal, somatic, or material components. You can just cast a spell. The fact is, since you're not doing anything that lets you see the spell being cast, you can't counter it. very, very important thing there. Counterspell requires you to know that a spell is being cast. If you don't make any motions or do anything that allows you to cast a spell, subtle spell allows you to go boop. It happens, and person doesn't know it was coming. So kind of an important one that way. Now, obviously, you GMs out there can specify maybe there's some way to sense a spell is coming there, and I mean if you want to gimp that or whatever, um, obviously it's up to you whether you want to allow a house rule for that or not. I'm of the opinion that if you're spending meta magic points, um, I ended up using quite a bit because it's a situation where I'm casting a high level spell. I don't want it to be countered. So having subtle spell by spending one meta magic point to go, yeah, you don't know what's happening. Really helpful. So I definitely recommend that. Obviously, other empowered spells, extended spells, ways to increase the duration, increase the range. All very good things to be able to add in there as well with your spells. So meta magics are really useful in a lot of situations. And the careful option, being able to remove targets of a spell or to make them automatically pass saving throws for a spell, very helpful as well. So, yeah, all those meta magic options are really good with sorcerers to be able to do that there. And there's a lot of other benefits they get. This allows them to make them to enhance the effects of their spells or the utility of their spells beyond what other casters can do. Um, yes, and yeah, exactly. It sounds fun for you to do it, and yeah, DMs don't remember. Remember, if you allow it for the players, you allow it for yourself. You can do it as well. So there's no reason not to allow it if you're capitalizing as well. Um, the options have a lot of uses, depends on how you want to play your sorcerer. Exactly. You want to just dish out more damage, then empower spells the way to go, or quick, or being able to. It's a lot of flexibility for sorcerers that take them beyond. You can also just make your spells, your sorcery points, your meta magic instead of doing sorcery, just allow you to cast more spells. You can just refill your spell slots using sorcery points. Also very helpful. So sorcerers can get kind of dish out more magic than you might be able to otherwise. Um, it's one of those things where when you hit a long rest and you still have all your sorcery points left, you're doing something wrong. Use those sorcery points. Use those meta magic points, those meta magic abilities, because that's what they're for. It's it's not squandering if you do fun things with them and make them happen. So as a player, use them up, get them out there, and don't be afraid to not use them. Don't be afraid to use them. That's what I meant. So sorcerers as villains. Anytime you want to throw magic out there, obviously, um, I did. I did use the in a player in a situation once there. I did use the subtle meta magic on someone who was casting counterspell, because one of the things I always is that counterspell duel. Like I throw a fireball, I counterspell, I counter your counterspell, I counter your counterspell, and so all it takes is one person with a subtle counterspell to go, nope, what just happened there? Why did the spell fizzle? Because I had a subtle counterspell in my pocket. So you can't counter my counter if you don't know I'm doing it. Again, really fun ways to throw a wrench in things like there, or to just be able to dish out something that you didn't expect. You don't have to follow all the rules with your villains, but using those as templates for abilities or things that your spellcasters can do, because they have that meta magic kind of thing built into some other spells, really is a way to kind of customize those enemy spellcasters in a way that doesn't have to fit into a mold. You don't have to build a 20th level sorcerer and figure out all those mechanics there. You just say, hey, these spells he's casting are subtle, or this spell is empowered, so it does more damage. You can just kind of build that into the actual class and just say, I don't keep track of spell points. I don't or sorcery points for this guy. He just has these abilities. Yeah, like in stopping time with a black mage. You just do it. Because again, you're the DM. Your characters don't have to. Your enemies, your villains, don't have to follow the same rules the players do. Because again, you have the whole world around you. But using these kind of ideas as templates for your villains really helps make some fun ways and some dangerous or challenging ways to put enemy spellcasters into a different tier to make them a little bit more of a threat. Because one thing we mentioned this year, sorcerers, a lot of times sorcerers, wizards, they're glass cannons. They don't stand up to heavy damage. So they need ways of being able to dish out what they can do before they get squashed. The worst thing is, I am a wizard and I have a 12 dex and I rolled a 3 for initiative and I'm getting pounded on because I delivered my monologue and now everybody dumps all their firepower into me and takes me out before I can cast a spell. Again, makes for a very unsatisfying encounter. Great for the party. Yay, we squashed him. But very difficult to step up the danger of a scenario when your wizard gets swatted or your sorcerer just can't dish anything out. Um, so, uh, in using those kind of things there, think about how you protect your spellcasters. Your sorcerers are no exception to this. Is when you want to use them as villains, don't just put them front and center. Pull them in the background, make them start off the fight invisible, or make them start off have them be off camera, and they appear. Or the fun part is make sure that thing that they're going to pound and throw all their stuff at here is an illusion, and then the real one steps up there. The idea of like magic should be dangerous. Magic should be unpredictable. So don't be afraid of using your spellcasters, your sorcerers especially, as they're going to do things you don't expect. They may tap into having a dragon like spellcaster using his draconic bloodline for sorcery type magic can do a lot of fun unexpected things. Um, or your character is really just like shape shifted and they step up and become like the sorcerer that's slinging out spells everywhere. Again, it's they're your villains. Make them something that people aren't going to just trounce over um or not be challenged by or not be interesting. Do what's going to be fun for you in an encounter and crazy for your players to deal with, because magic is kind of one of the big leveling the playing fields. You can just swing swords at each other all day long here, but as soon as the fireballs come out or the finger of death is used or the disintegrate spell is used, um that's going to change the targeting and and the danger level and everything else. The first time you go, "Hmm, I'm going to go ahead and power word kill." Oh no, that ninth level character that spellcaster just brought out the big guns because they're going to. Um, yeah. So, yeah. Use your sorcerers, use your spellcasters in general, but sorcerers especially, use them in unpredictable ways. Let them be a threat that they're not going to expect or see coming exactly. So, pop culture sorcerers. I'm going to start off with the one right below me there, Doctor Strange. There's a reason they call him the Sorcerer Supreme. I see a lot of debate on the internet going, "No, he's a wizard. He used spells to study. He like." I'm sorry. You can say that yes, I've learned my magic, and you can say I have a book of magic, but we didn't see Doctor Strange studying from his book every day to rack his spells and figure out what he had. We also didn't see a wide variety of spells from Doctor Strange. We saw a few specific ones here, and a lot of what Doctor Strange was doing what came from items. His sling ring was the way he was creating portals to other places. His cloak allowed him to fly and levitate and everything else. Even the spells he used to manipulate time was from the Eye of Agamotto, which had the time stone embedded in it. So all the things that we saw, a lot of the iconic things we see Doctor Strange do are from his items, and his actual magic is a fairly limited set of spells, very powerful in some cases, but a fairly limited set of spells that he could manifest himself. And he did learn, yes, but think of that as the leveling up process for a sorcerer. they're going to tap into their magic, figure out ways to expand what they do. And whether it's from a story, um, whether it's from a book that he's learning from and saying, how do I internalize this? How do I make this my own? Like that's your leveling up process for a sorcerer. You're not studying from spell books all the time in the process of your day-to-day life. Um, yes. I would say Harry Dresden is a sorcerer. I'm not gonna I agree with you on that one. I say Harry Dresden, he practices magic, but he has a limited number of spells. And it depends on where we are in Harry's story. Again, I think the world of Dresden Files, and that's who we're talking about here, is the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher, which I'm going to start playing in a game here. But um, the Dresden Files here, I'm a huge fan. If I hadn't already said that earlier in something else here, Dresden is very much. I feel like mechanically, if you're building him in D&D, he'd be more of a sorcerer. Um, because the way he does things is very much sorcery based. But he calls himself a wizard because that's the way the world is built around the Dresden Files world. But yeah, I totally agree. Dresden Files, Harry Dresden plays more like a sorcerer. Absolutely. Now, I will say that there's a way to kind of like think of this as maybe a multi-class thing. If he's got a sorcerer wizard, because he does do some things where he's kind of crafting potions. In a way, he almost has some artificer levels in there too. When he starts crafting items, he's got his shield bracelet. He's making things in his free time. In a way, it's almost like he's got some. I mean, some enchanting abilities, but there's some things where you kind of mix and match some things in there. So, but yeah, his day to day like I'm in combat now with somebody. He's doing sorcerer stuff. Um, Another great thing that's think of as a sorcerer here. We mentioned her before in some ways here, but Storm from the X-Men, very much a candidate for Storm sorcery. She very powerful in what she does. She doesn't do a lot of variety of things. All of her magic revolves around controlling the weather and using lightning. Now, I will say that there's a great concept of doing Storm as a Tempest Cleric, Storm Sorcerer, multi-class, but very much any. I wouldn't. You could also. I've also considered think about using like Thor as levels of warrior, fighter, Tempest Cleric, and Storm Sorcerer, kind of mix and match there for all those abilities that he uses. That could work out as well too. Um, my divine so other pop culture. Anyone who wants to throw some ideas out here? I appreciate the one from Millsap there with bringing Harry Dresden. Um, Other sorcerers. I will say the D&D movie, most recent one here, had a great depiction of a chaos magic sorcerer. The main sorcerer in that movie obviously had mishaps with his spells. He obviously was sort of a charisma based thing. He didn't have very high charisma because he wasn't a very good speaker. But the role he was playing and the idea of like trying to being that sort of con man wizard idea there, he was using charisma for sure in a lot of ways. So seeing that character in action, he definitely had some moments of chaos magic in what he did, even to the point of like messing up the town hall he was in, where he caused all kinds of problems there with his spells when they went awry. Um, so I think yes, a very good depiction of a chaos sorcerer there. Um, and if you have any more ideas, throw them in there. Those are the ones that I kind of had initially here. Uh, it's very tricky because obviously D&D starts to like have different types of spellcasters, whereas worlds that don't have D&D specifically in mind, they're just gonna make a spellcaster. I mean, you could say like Gandalf. I, I mean, he just did magic. And he has that classic like look, but did we ever see Gandalf pull out a spell book and like recite like look through it? Not really. Um, he did things that in a way, he kind of superseded a lot of the rules of D&D for Magic. So again, it's hard to really say that depictions in pop culture are a specific type of caster. We can all agree that Gandalf was an arcane caster. Merlin is depicted as an arcane caster all the times. He's not, but the mechanics they use don't fit into the mechanics that D&D have all the time here. You can build that and make a character that's very similar to that. Yeah, for Merlin exactly. E- and there's so many different depictions of it depending on the story, the show, the movie, comics. He's depicted in so many different ways because he's sort of that iconic wizardly arcane archmage kind of archetype that you have things there. The Sanderson sisters, very much, I can so totally see them as kind of druid sorcerers because they do all the potions and the cauldrons like that and tap into that sort of nature type magics there, but they do some sort of enchantments and turning a guy into a cat. Absolutely. So Hocus Pocus, uh, those I could definitely see as sort of a druid sorcerer or a warlock sorcerer, maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's different things you can think of there. But yeah, any spellcaster in a movie or show could definitely kind of um, find ways of incorporating sorcerer, wizard, warlock, maybe some other spellcasting classes as well. Um, and I think that a lot of times sorcerer it makes a good way of bringing in some extra oomph with the abilities from the bloodlines, um, from your type of arcane, type of sorcerer, to throw in a little extra abilities and flexibility into your spell casting. If you're not trying to shoot straight up to the highest level spells right away, multi-classing into sorcerer is a great way to add some focus, but some flexibility as well. So you focus in your spells, but get flexibility in your abilities with meta magic especially. So great way to go. And of course, if you look back in times there, the sorcerer warlock combination of being able to get infinite spell slots was a thing for a while there. I think they finally kind of patched that out from the idea of like I'm gonna use my cast my warlock spell because it's a fifth level spell into sorcery points and then back and forth and I dream of Genie with wild magic. I mean, yes, absolutely, because things always went awry for her. She had full intentions of making something happen a certain way, uh, um, and boop, it went totally awry. Perfect one there, Dow. Awesome. And Bewitched, yeah, Witch. Sorcery has again sort of that innate thing. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, same a more modern version of Bewitched. Um, the idea of someone who just knows magic. Although the most recent Sabrina that was done, they're a little more into warlock at that point because she's making a pact with dark powers to get more magic. But she still had some innate magic as well. So again, two more great examples of potentially sorcerers within there. Awesome. Um, Now I want to put something forth because of sorcerers and what they do. We always see sorcerers as charisma casters, and I'm going to put forth the idea of not every sorcerer should necessarily be a charisma based caster. Sorcery and knowing yourself and channeling magic from inside of you has nothing to do with charisma. Charisma, as it's described in D&D, I want to point it out here. The ability scores here: confidence, poise, and charm. What about my draconic bloodline that comes from my ancestry indicates that I have to use confidence, poise, and charm to use my magic? Like this is an internal thing to me. It's about knowing me and tapping into the magic that's inside of me and making it come out. To me, that's wisdom. Wisdom is perceptiveness and mental fortitude. It's also depicted as intuition and willpower. You are drawing on something inside of you and and putting it forth into the world. So the idea of why is a sorcerer always depicted as a charisma caster when what they do is knowing yourself and tapping into that thing inside of you and making it real in the world. Um, Frothy Mug with a double ticket bar. Absolutely. Get those drinks passed around here. Um, and send back a thumbs up there. So, um, I think the idea that being a wisdom-based sorcerer, or I'm going to put it out there, Doctor Strange. He's a doctor. He's literally a doctor, very intelligence based there. His approach to magic was very much, I need to figure this out. I need to study this and make it work for me. He is an intelligence based sorcerer. So I'm going to put it out there as a house rule to you GMs out there is let a sorcerer choose their spellcasting stat. I mean, it it expands. It makes some very awesome combinations where sorcerer becomes what it is kind of intended. The role as a sorcery is sort of like that flexible, like jack of all trades, being able to use magic in ways that not everyone else can. Suddenly, think of the possibilities. Storm as a storm sorcerer cleric, tempest cleric, both using wisdom as their spellcasting stat, can do a lot more with what they are. Storm was a leader. She had confidence, poison, charm. She was a thief in her childhood. Kind of that urchin background, if you want to go that route there. Um, but the fact is that Storm as a character, while she was a leader, her magic was all about drawing on that thing and using those forces and all that. Her magic had nothing to do with her confidence and leadership abilities. Um, it's the idea that's there. Now, I will say yes, as Millsap, I agree. Like, charisma, I think, is a power that's just there and has the confidence and will to use it. I totally see that as a way that the charisma works as a spellcasting set for sorcerers, but I don't think it's the only way that sorcerers tap into magic. And to make it so that all sorcerers are charisma based only, it doesn't really fit with what sorcerers are. Um, I'm a shadow sorcerer. Yes, I can deceive and everything else, but I'm using stealth and hiding and working in the shadows here. I may never talk to someone. I don't even want to be seen by anyone because I'm in the shadows. So I'm all about watching and seeing and creeping through the shadows there. Why wouldn't I use wisdom for that? Or I want to be a sorcerer artificer. I think intelligence and being that I want to figure out magic and know how my magic works and how I can make it do things there. I think the idea of sorcerers having the flexibility of choosing their stat, and it's something that becomes inherent to them. Magic is inherent to them. So why not have a sorcerer pick their stat? Now, again, this is for everyone here. This would be a house rule thing that is just one of the things that I've always felt that made sense for me. I'm going to go back to my Divine Soul Sorcerer. Um, he was very much that I have this connection to divine magic. There's something inside of me um, that allows me to tap into divine magic. I can heal people. I can use radiant spells and radiant magic because my spells are all of a divine origin. So the idea of that being all charisma based. Now, I will say that character, unfortunately, didn't get to go this route here, had come across this divine, radiant energy based tree that was intelligent, and I was going to make a pact with it, become a sorcerer warlock, and become a celestial warlock. Now, talk about healing abilities. When you have a divine soul sorcerer, celestial warlock, you just dump out a lot of healing magic really fast. It can be a really fun healing version of that character. But I want to put out some other ideas. Like we mentioned, Storm being a Tempest cleric sorcerer, using wisdom as the main thing there. I want to put out that I think that Doctor Strange makes a lot of sense for an intelligence-based sorcerer wizard, having some wizard abilities and sorcerer abilities, using wizard as a spellcasting stat. Um, Another fun one to consider might be obviously the charisma-based thing of like the charisma. The most common multi-classes for sorcerers are going to be bard, of course, paladins, and warlocks because they also are all charisma based here. So you kind of be able to stack on that extra charisma is going to help both of your classes. Great way to go. But now I want to point out a fun combination of a sorcerer monk with wisdom as your main stat. Now you are dishing out not only monk abilities that all focus on wisdom and everything else, but magical abilities well that tapping into. And so being a dragon soul monk, draconic sorcerer, you're based on wisdom, you are tapping into that inner magic to not only do martial things, but eh, making elemental attacks and using elemental magic as well. It all works well together, and you aren't having to run. One of the things that's hard with multi-classing, I think, especially, is when you have conflicting stats. Or like we talked about, monks have a hard time multi-classing because monks need wisdom, but they also need dex. But you want to have a strength-based monk, then you're missing out on your armor class. There's monks already have so many abilities they need; it's hard to multi-class them. Where if you had a spellcasting class that had some flexibility in it, you can make some really fun new versions of things. I want to point out the idea of a druid sorcerer using wisdom, where now you're doing, I mean, elemental magics through sorcery and nature magics through druid, and being able to dish out some really fun combinations of spells here. And there's some overlap and everything else, but it adds some flexibility to things. If you want to do your nature control of weather and everything else there, and just use a lightning bolt spell from the sorcerer, you're calling down lightning and everything else. And so sometimes there's some duplication in spell lists, but there's some different ways to go that allow you to really good fun flexibility and interesting ways of dishing out magic that I think the sorcerer really kind of lends itself to. Um, so yeah, just a thought out there, GMs. I mean, if I run D&D in the future, I would definitely put that forth as a possibility for my players to pick their stat. I do have a friend that was talking about wanting to do a constitution-based sorcerer, where it's all about my healthiness. I'm going to dish out magic using my physical being. Um, I would shy away from using a dex-based or strength-based sorcerer. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, definitely the idea of using any mental stat, picking your mental stat, and going that way for your sorcerer. It doesn't break the game, doesn't break anything else that, I mean, it just kind of changes up what the focus of that. How many sorcerers, because your source charisma is your main stat, also have high deception or persuasion or performance, because what else are you going to use your highest stat for skill wise? So, um, yeah, and think so. Yeah, the idea. So, Mills up there, idea of using the stats for things that so you get more flavor to your character. Yeah, there's no reason to, like the idea of a sorcerer, like I said, the shadow sorcerer. Why is he the one talking to someone? Of deception, maybe if you want to go that route, but the idea of the sorcerer is going to be hiding in those shadows and staying out of view. If you're talking to someone, you're kind of defeating the purpose of being a shadow sorcerer sometimes. Um, you should be focusing more on stealth and awareness, being the ultimate scout as a shadow sorcerer. I mean, yeah. So yeah, the idea of being able to take that sorcerer, that flexible, my magic is inherent to me, allowing them to have those aspects there. Now, I would say that I would probably do then is in their uh, with their saving throws, whatever stat they pick as their main stat there becomes their stat with their saving throws. Um, so yeah, if you picked charisma, then your charisma right now our sorcerers have charisma and constitutions or saving throws. If you picked wisdom, I'd say wisdom and constitution your saving throws. Intelligence, constitution your saving throws. So it matches up there with whatever stat you picked. Um, that's just my opinion on how it goes here. But yeah, I think that's something to consider at least. So last, um, we're getting low on time now, but the idea of again sorcerer being a sort of like unpredictable master of a specific kind of magic allows a lot of flexibility, and it makes for some very fun multi-class combinations there when we can tap in that sorcerer ways of channeling some extra oomph into a concept you want to go with. Um, it does add some really good flavor to your spellcasters as you can kind of delve into specific aspects of specific types of magic, as opposed to next week when we talk about wizards, the schools of magic as their specializations. That's a very different way to go in terms of how wizards approach magic, and which we're going to talk about next time. So anything else you want to throw in those comments there, please drop them in here. Um, but we're going to wrapping up soon here. As I said, next week we are, or next in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about wizards, our quintessential. Actually, no, sorry, I'm wrong. Next week we're talking about warlocks. Yes, because alphabetically warlocks are next. So next week we're talking about warlocks here. Our other charisma-based caster, I'm going to put it right out there right now. Warlocks make sense as a charisma caster. You are making a connection. You are forging a bond with an entity. Um, Dollar Tree sorcerers. No, no, no. No, we're talking about warlocks next time here, for sure. But I will say, wizards are probably one of I have a lot of wizard characters over the years, but warlocks are next. Um, and again, that pact magic there, the idea of whereas sorcerers are internal for their magic, warlocks are external. They are getting their magic from some otherworldly, literally otherworldly source. Um, Dollar General sorcerers. No, no, no. Warlocks have a very different approach to things, and they have some very interesting mechanics, and it's very hard to work with warlocks sometimes. I will say they have some very niche builds in how they do things, and they were a very difficult class to redo for 2024. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Um, I'm not sure I care for the 2024 warlocks very much, but they still kept some very important features on them. So I think warlocks have some. They need a little bit of love. Um, and they usually have that love from their patrons. So we'll be talking about them next time here. But anyway, um, with those sorcerers, again, have fun with the masters of a specific kind of magic. They're those spellcasters that are going to be focused in a way that other spellcasters might not be. And you can make some very, very flavorful characters and villains that have a specific way of doing things. So, hope you have fun with your sorcerers. Hope you enjoy your sorcerers playing them, throwing them out there, and having some fun with that arcane magic there. So, uh, as always, um, thanks for being here with me. Thanks for watching now, both here and in the future there. And if you have any ideas, as we are coming up to the end of our Class Act series, only two more to go officially. We have two more to deal with. And I would love to get some ideas for where you want to go next with our DM&D series. If you have any specific questions, topics you want to revisit from times past here, we are quite a few episodes into this, so I'm more than willing to go back and kind of revisit some old topics and everything else. Um, so hopefully you'll join us next time for Warlocks, and throw those comments in there, throw those comments in the video there, throw us a like, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so we can get to some more content out there for you. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. As always, drinks are on us. We'll see you again soon. Take care, folks. Have fun. Bye.